Welcome back. Our next guest is a voice many young Nigerians recognize, both in the streets and in the halls of policy. Honorable Ayodele Olawande, Minister of State for Youth Development, he's now the Minister for Youth Development, represents a generation of leadership that is closer in age and experience to the very demographic this program focuses on. I mean, how can we have a whole conversation without the Minister of Youth? Since his appointment in 2023, he has consistently pushed for deeper youth engagement in governance, practical skills development, and sustainable empowerment models. His approach combines grassroots connection with policy-level advocacy, challenging institutions to move beyond rhetoric and into real, measurable impact. Tonight, he joins us not just as a policymaker, but as someone who has walked alongside the youth, listening, learning, and leading. Honorable Minister Olawande Ayodele, thank you so much for joining us on the program this evening. Well, let me start with this question to you. You have been talking about not just representing young people in government. You are a young person. And for young people, oftentimes there is always this disconnect between them and those who lead them. How are you maintaining the trust that young people should have in you, that you will represent their best interests in government?
Thank you very much. And I think this is a very good question, because for me, I've always said this, that for the past years, there have been a disconnect between the government and the youth. If not for this government, I don't think this is the first time we're having a 30s as the Minister of Youth to handle the Ministry of Youth. And this is not the first time, actually, but this is also another time that we're having a Ministry of Youth on itself, because everything is about youth and sport. And there is going to be a diversion of a lot of things in sports, not in youth development. So when people talked about criticism about government and all that, I said 40 years. If 40 years is a long span for somebody not to be with the government, for a government not to hear from his youth, for a youth not to see government, for a youth not to touch government in any way, and for a youth not to feel government. So I find it not a disconnecting for like a young person or a government saying that they are not together. They cannot be together because the youth cannot feel the government, they can't see the government, and there is no good representation. So as a Minister of Youth, when I was Minister of State, I did a very, I won't call it laudable because I can't praise myself, but I did something. I actually want to know what the youth in every zone feels. I visited local governments, not even state, and I visited over 28 states. Just want to know the difference between what the youth in the local area want and the youth in the city want.
What did you find?
And I discovered that the youth in the northeast is different from the youth in the southwest. What they need in south-south is different from what they need in the southeast.
Can you give us a sample?
Like when I go to Gombe State, I discovered that what the youth are looking for, they are much more conversant in sports. They want to hear you talking to them in our Greek. And it's different from the youth in Chibok, because I visited there.
What did the youth in Chibok tell you?
I discovered that even the youth in Chibok are looking for survivor because of the minority side they have, and because of the religions, ethnic. And I also discovered that the youth in the South-South is different, because the agitations about bringing an industry, putting themselves together, thinking that there is a tip of Niger Delta stuff in them. They are not being carried along. They want to be part of the system, or probably some part of them we talk about leaders. So I try to have an engagement in 28 states, just to feel what they really need, or probably what they want in their affairs of whatever locations they have.
So the assumption here is that you've been able to collate empirically by having a conversation with these people within the grassroots area of exactly what they want. So when you're making a presentation to the president, you're in cabinet, what exactly do you tell him as what is urgent for the youth?
First, in October 24, I discovered that even in 2024 alone, 2024 budget alone in government, we have over 896 youth initiatives. And I asked myself, where are these initiatives? So the first thing that we did, and we put the FEC as the Minister of Youth, not Minister of State now, Minister of Youth, was to have a dashboard of the youth initiatives we have. Different from what the government have, we also have those initiatives that are brought into government, into the country, by private sectors, societies, and all that, and over $400,000 we're also bringing to the country. And I asked myself, where are all those monies? And we still complain about unemployment, we still complain about our mental health, we complain about insecurity, protections for young people, and all that. So we sat down and we have a youth, we worked, because the president also appoints an SA to the youth on initiative monitoring and delivery. To work with each other, we have a dashboard now that we have all youth initiative. After putting all that, we now discovered that 2.5% of the youth initiative generally we have is in Ministry of Youth. So you have larger part of over 22.5% in agric, you have others in tech, you have others, spread all about. So we need to put it on the dashboard, go to the Federal Executive Council, ask. We are not saying that bring it to the Ministry of Youth, no. Because probably they may have a mandate that said the initiative should be in their ministry. But again, let's have a youth desk in that ministry, whereby these youth desks, we put them together, we call all the MDAs, we have a strategic meeting with the SA to the president on policy delivery in Addis Ababa, and we put all these things together. And now, the FEC approved that we should have a youth desk whereby we can reach out. We even want to know what you are doing, so that we will come just an occasion like this and said, see, there is youth initiative in this ministry, there is youth initiative in this ministry, you can get this in this MDA. And I can give you an example. Naseni, Smildan, even BO High, even Ministry of Agric. And again, some part of Ministry of Budget and budgeting of giving youth some intensive scheme that we're trying to come up with again now. So we have all these things, and the Federal Executive Council gave us pass that there should be a youth desk that will be an intermediary between Ministry of Youth and other ministries. So that's the first thing we did. And we now put the dashboard relating with all private sectors. We have a meeting with the private sector. We want to know the problem that we don't have unemployment, because we also know that government cannot employ everybody. So civil servants is there, then we should drive more on private sector. So we had a meeting with them and put everything together, and we want to form a body, a structure that all youth initiative will be driven well, and it can get to every local area, because I'm much more concerned about that.
Okay, let me quickly bring this issue of the National Youth Summit in. I mean, opening this program, we spoke to what President Bola Tinubu did in the speech he gave October 1 last year, and now we know that in the first quarter of this year, from the report we also played, that he's inaugurated a committee to make sure that youth, is it conference now, happens?
Youth confab.
Yeah, youth confab. When is that? When are you planning to host that?
Yeah, very soon. The youth confab.
Very soon is not a date, Honorable Minister. Very soon.
I know you are going to ask me the date, but he has a procedure.
Yes.
If you really, I've said this again. I said, in government, and as a youth, and I'm also part of the youth, and that is why I'm bold enough to say this. Fine, my generation want things quick. But I've also realized that there is nothing you can get without proper planning.
Okay, so give us a time frame.
So for us, in a couple of days, we are going to come up with the first layer of it, which is the launching of the portal, because we want transparency. A lot of people have said that this confab is all about politics. I'm a politician, no doubt. I'm even a practicing politician. But again, we want to do it differently for the first time. And we want to see, maybe we can get, which we are going to get, a different result.
So you want to launch a portal?
We are going to launch a portal, a website.
For young people to register?
Yes, people to register.
So will everyone who registers be able to attend?
It's going to the grassroots. Let me explain to you. The first set of it is 30 days. The president approved 30 days, and that is 4 weeks. The first 1 week, we want to see how we can engage the young people in all the 364 federal constituencies we have.
Okay.
We want to see how we will go from there to the zonal. We want to see, to the six geopolitical zones we have. We want to see how we can engage them and say, okay, this is what you need in this geopolitical zone. We've tried the federal constituency, and don't forget, all these federal constituencies are those, let me use the House of Representatives as an example. They are those in contact with those people in the grassroots. Because again, the reason why we are trying to push this forward is that I discovered during my visit that a lot of young people leave their local area. They come to the city, and nothing is happening in the city. A lot of people want to travel from Nigeria to UK. What is happening in UK is simple. Many people cannot stay in London because they develop their local government areas or other states they are. So I find it that, see, a lot of youth, we have a lot of potentials that a youth can drive on in their local areas. So I looked at it that let us engage them in their local area for the first week. The second week, let's go to the zona and let's see what connects us together.
So, Honorable Minister, so you're basically talking about mobility of labor. So let's talk about people that suspect the conference to be, okay, we've had conferences. So what is the end game of this? So they can cite the national confab, they can cite papers that are gathering dust after all of these conferences are done. Some are saying, oh, this is a political mobilization for 2027. What's your answer?
Okay, my answer is this. I said it the other time. I said political office holders, critics, and all those things will come onto this. And I think this would be, okay, I'm not attending now, I'm a minister. I've attended like 2 conferences, confabs for the young people. And I said, we want to do it differently for those that are going to participate. And that is why I said, nearly will you see if 360,000 young people are participating in the federal constituency, and we have on the zonal level, and we also have the bringing it. And what we are saying is that, see, we want to have a conference that at the end of the day, we have the structure that implementation will go in the administrative way, implementation will go in the legislative way, and implementation will go to do a follow-up later. And this structure is simple, that now, even at the committee level, nobody is in the committee as individual. We have from Ministry of Interior, you are representing a ministry at the whatever you are doing. Whatever we are doing there, we want to make sure that at the end of the conference, I'm a minister, I should be able to provide the communication, the policy we've made on education, on whatever we do. I should be able to present it, I should be able to present it at FEC and said, this is an executive direction to this. It should be passed. We have the legislators, and that is why we have the committees in the National Assembly, both at the Senate and at the Rep. We put them together and say, see, you must be part of this, so that everything that is going to happen legislative can go to them. And we said, okay, the civil society and the others, I said, okay, we can put this together too. We want to have a representation. And in the judiciary, because there's something that is going to deal with the act and all these things, and implementation of policies that a lot of young people does not have access to. I'll give you an example. When you talked about National Youth Service Corps today, since 1973, a lot of my brothers have passed through this. I have also passed through this. Maybe I'm in my early stage, so not quite long we did this. And see, what has been happened there before for over years should need a reform. So we're also going to bring it back inside this confab, despite the fact that we have a reform committee set up now, but we are still bringing it back and see what can we do to turn it to a corporateurship, so that it's not going to be in a head that you want to go and serve your father's land. You want to go and serve yourself. You want to create impact in yourself. There's this kind of issues that are going to come up on this confab. So we are setting the space so that a lot of young people, we have a confidence that for the first time of having a young person as minister, is taking a space to be with them at the grassroots and to also set a space in the policy making.